Flyers for beating the Panthers.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank the Rangers for being.
Welcome to the Sports Porch.
You call that the Liberty Bell?
It is March 27th, 2023.
Yeah.
And we are live on social media. And of course, you can always catch us on theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com.
That's exactly right. And on the podcast, which we drop, it's the show after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, thank you for listening if you are, and thank you to American Busker, iHeartRadio, 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. Woo! And Luke Morrell says, holy cow. I'm not sure why he's saying that.
Holy
Let us know why.
All those platforms.
Yeah, maybe. I have no idea.
Woo! That is a holy cow.
But in case you guys haven't noticed, we're getting some new backgrounds here. Schwaber's background. Look at that. Schwaber's background. Steve has no background. We are moving studios. We are slowly making upgrades. And if you could only be here for the pre-show, I think you would appreciate what's truly going on here.
Which is a whole bunch of nonsense.
We're going to leave that to another podcast. So anyway, guys, thanks for being here. And we got a lot to talk about. But the first thing that I'd like to address here is the incredibly tight race, which was our NCAA men's first annual porcheslive.com challenge. I'm going to put that up here. These are the standings as of right now. Your technical director has been in last place since day one. And as you can see,
solidly in last place.
That's because I went through the bracket and just went click, 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 click. And everybody's champion is out. And the bracket, we have an unofficial winner. Do you know Rob Polarski?
Rob Polarski, yeah. He's my son's roommate.
Oh,
he's a Pittsburgher.
Okay, so Rob is gonna, but it's only official when the national champion is crowned, even though unofficially it's over.
It's over.
Listen, guys. I mean,
who finished?
Rob finished 100 points in front of everybody.
Who finished first amongst the sports porchers?
That would be the Jablons.
That would be the Grand Swabini.
The Jablons.
Team Terrier. Team Terrier.
Yeah,
that's right. So while we're looking at this,
barely though, it was close.
Yeah. While I'm looking at this, I mean, look, I'm just going to throw this out at you. This is what the transfer portal does.
I agree.
This is what the transfer portal does. I don't care if you like it or you don't like it, but who'd have thought that San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, Miami, who Pitt beat, and UConn would be in the Final Four this year. When you started, yeah, right. I can see that from
you didn't get one of them, did you?
I did not get one. I was very close though. I almost had Texas.
Yeah, Texas. I think I had Texas.
Yeah. I mean, to me, and we can have this debate all night long, and we're not going to because we got more important and fun things to talk about. But
the tournament's a thing.
We can have at least a 2-minute debate.
Yeah. All right. Well, give it your 2 minutes.
Well, the tournament is a thing. I think it broke records over the weekend for people watching it. So it's
that's a good point.
But the problem is why are people watching it? Did they just miss the tournament? Because the teams that played, the games kind of sucked. I mean, there were close games, but the quality of the play wasn't that great. I mean, I really liked watching that Noel from Kansas State. I really wanted him to be there. He's 5'0"
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Yeah,
slam it. I mean, great assist.
He was taller than you.
No, he's shorter than me. But anyway,
I had to get one in there.
I just like I like it when there's like an underdog that you can root for, but when you have 3 or 4, it feels kind of fake. How about you, Mark?
Well, I just think that it's the end of college basketball as we knew it,
officially,
which is and what that was it was every year you had about 8 to 10 programs that were pretty much there every year and always had a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't mind it so much. I mean, I'd rather watch 2 schools. Like, I would actually rather watch San Diego State play Florida Atlantic than Kentucky play Duke, just because I feel like I've seen Kentucky play Duke.
Yeah, every year for the last 20 years. Yeah.
However, I would say this, though. I would also say, but it is possible that maybe after 2 or 3 years of Florida Atlantic versus San Diego State, I'll be looking for a little bit better product.
I just want to see a good game. Like I want to see teams that can shoot the lights out of the 3-pointer. I don't want to see a team that's great in their defensive schemes. I don't want to see that. I want to see a bunch of scoring. I don't care who the teams are. I agree with you there, but I need to see a good product on the court. I didn't see a lot of that this weekend, and I watched probably more of it this year than I have in years past, which is curious to me.
Well, we did have a bracket going for the Porches Live. I mean,
maybe, but I mean, I was already out of it. I was just kind of watching it to see if like these teams that I didn't know were actually good. And my conclusion was they're actually not that good, but they play a pretty good defense. And that was good enough to get them in.
Yeah, I think that it's going to renew for a time being. To your point, Mark, it's going to renew for the time being, a little bit more interest in college basketball because of the transfer portal now. And we'll use the hometown team, Pitt.
Yeah.
I used this phrase a couple of weeks ago and people made fun of me for it, but they cobbled together and Luke chimes in and says that Kansas State guard was phenomenal.
He was awesome.
But they cobbled together a good team this year, and it looks to me like, now I don't know the transfer portal in the history of Miami or FAU or whatever, but it seems to me like they probably had the same thing.
Miami does have a great player, but where's he from? Has he been there the whole time?
I think he's only a sophomore.
Is he a sophomore?
Yeah, so okay. I think and they were in like the Elite 8 last year, right?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So Miami's kind of an up and coming program,
and they've got a coach who took George Mason to the Final 4 years ago.
Right, exactly. So they've got a good coach.
Yeah. So what is this? This basically changes the landscape of college basketball and, for that matter, college football. But I think it has a more immediate effect on college basketball.
Well, I think the other thing too this year, and this only will happen this year, this was if you were in school during COVID, you could get an extra year, and this is the last year for that.
Okay.
So basically, there were a lot of fifth-year seniors who weren't going to make it in the NBA and stuck around and played. I think that was the case with San Diego State.
Yeah.
I think they have like 3 or 4 fifth-year seniors.
Yeah.
You even see it like it says sophomore, junior, graduate, and you're like, graduate.
Right.
So should we have a mini Porch Challenge now that we have the Final Four set and none of us had the Final Four? Should we have a mini Porch Challenge? We haven't done any predictions in a while. Let's predict.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay. I'm all for a mini challenge.
So
I lose them all anyways.
We'll start
as long as I don't have to eat any hot wings.
We'll start with you, Steve. That's going to be
No. I said as long as
you don't want to double down on that.
I absolutely do not. I want to see somebody else eat hot wings.
Well, then you're going to have to take part in the challenge.
Well,
I'm not going to eat.
No. I think
you guys are.
Hey, I already did it.
Yeah,
so I know what it feels
so
like.
So kudos to you. Yeah. But I would do it.
Well, then if you do it because you lost. So there you go. That's it.
What about like 2 bushels full of like onion rings?
2 bushels full of Schwab. Have you ever seen me eat onion rings? That's not a challenge.
How about 3 blooming onions?
Yeah, isn't that what it was? Yeah, where are the blooming onions?
They're
Outback. That's Outback. Yeah,
Outback. Yeah, Outback. 3 blooming onions.
All right. No, I'll tell you what. Let's do it this way. If I lose, I will do the hot wing challenge at
Okay.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
There you
Okay.
go.
If you lose, what will you do?
I'll do the bloomin' onions.
3 bloomin' onions?
I guess. I don't even know how big one is.
It's like this big.
Well, no, a little smaller than that. They're about this big.
They're big. I would say two.
Two?
I would
I'll
say
do
two.
two. I'll
Okay,
do two.
so Chris, hot wings, Mark, bloomin' onions, Steve. And you don't get any credit for what you already
I
did.
know. I'm not asking for credit. I have no idea. Like, I have no idea.
You'll smoke 3 big cigars of my choosing.
Oh my goodness. That could be okay. That's a
Steve,
deal.
Cigars.
That's a deal.
Okay, so final 4.
Because 2 is okay, but you get for that third one.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna be a little
Yeah.
dizzy.
I'll be right there with you,
Yeah,
though,
okay.
but not dizzy. Dizzy.
I will. Be dizzy.
Okay, and Luke's saying I'm going Yukon because he's originally from Greenwich, Connecticut. All right, so
Makes sense.
I'd
I'd go Pitt.
Mark, San Diego State at Florida Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic.
Okay,
No, see, I was going San Diego State even before you picked.
and Miami at Yukon.
Well, you gonna pick that game too?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to say San Diego State.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve said San Diego
Yeah.
State. Okay,
Going with the Aztecs.
Miami at Yukon.
Everything's telling me that UConn's gonna win this thing, but I'm gonna go Miami.
Okay, I'm going Miami as well.
Yeah, I was thinking Miami, but I'll go UConn because you guys went Miami.
Okay, and then the winner.
I'll go Miami.
Okay, Mark's going Miami. I'm going to go San Diego State.
Yeah, and I'll go UConn.
and
Sure,
you go
why not?
UConn.
There you go.
I'm all in
Okay.
on UConn.
Okay, so
I
there
don't
you
know
have it,
a
guys.
single player on their team.
All right,
Nobody believes in
all right. So
Florida.
there you have it. The mini challenge for the Porch is
I'm
live.
with you, Luke. You and me. We're going
If
all the way.
wait a minute. If Chris loses, if Mark loses, so we have to have a points.
Oh
thing.
yeah,
So it'll
All
be
right.
it'll be
the
one.
game.
It'll be 1 point. Well, you want to know what? We'll figure out the points because it's not until next week.
5
anyway.
points if you for,
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
first round, 10 point for the championship.
Yeah.
That's all. Simple.
Okay.
5 for the first round, 10 for the championship.
Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so if I lose, if I have the least amount of points, I'm going to do the wing challenge at Buffalo Wild Wings. You will eat 2 bloomin' onions.
2 blooming onions, and I will smoke 3
And
cigars.
you will
that
smoke
you're
3
choosing.
huge cigars, and we will do that live on theporcheslive.com. Okay. All right. So let's move into much more important stuff around here. We're going to talk Steelers right now. We were talking about this before the show. This is one of the only towns, I think, in the country where in the off season that has 3 major sports, 3 of
At
the
least
4
3,
major
yeah.
sports, right? In the off season, the Pens are on the bubble for the playoffs. They have a historic team, if you think about it.
Yeah.
They were a legendary team, and the Steelers get more press than the Penguins do, and it's the off season. So we're going to talk Steelers right now, just because.
because
Just
we can.
As Mark said, he wants to get it
Well,
over
draft
with.
is coming up.
Well,
They're still continuing to sign free.
I think
agents.
true sports towns, that's what it is. I mean, I think
True.
it's the same thing in Philadelphia with, we could be all excited for the Sixers playoffs coming up, but we're talking more Eagles than anything else.
Well, yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, the Eagles are the big team.
Look,
Yeah,
NFL is year round now,
Right.
That's
minus the XFL. Let's face
Yeah,
it,
that's
that's
not,
not a real
the
league.
NFL, right?
Right.
That's not the NFL.
But they're staying relevant because it's football.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we have launched the Sports Porch Philadelphia as a secondary podcast to this one. I say secondary only because, do you want that off?
No, I want to.
Only because
I got a shadow going.
only because it was the second in our group. But we talked about the Terrell Edmonds signing on the Eagles and the loss here.
Where
So
did he go?
he went to the Eagles.
Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That
the
makes
Eagles
sense.
signed him for 1 year, $2 million.
We take your offensive line, you get our.
That's right.
It's a
That's
trade.
right. Well, I've got a
Trade.
theory about this that we'll get to.
How much did he sign? $2 million.
$2
Yeah.
million, one
That's a
year, $2
good
million.
signing.
He swears it's $2 million. I thought it was more, but
No, it's
you know.
$2 million.
Okay, so Terrell Edmonds.
That's a good signing for that.
He
one.
signs with the Eagles. What kind of loss is that for the Steelers? You
Well,
know?
they signed KZ, so they basically said by signing KZ, we're going to go a little bit younger, and that's really it. The difference between KZ and Terrell Edmonds, my guess is Terrell Edmonds probably was a better tackler, and KZ's probably a better cover guy.
Yeah.
So I think they lose a little bit in the tackling, but I think because they signed their linebackers, they're thinking that's okay. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. I like the fact that they got a little bit younger back there too. KZ played well when he played.
Yeah.
So
he started the year injured, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's fine. I think it's okay to let him go. And I'm happy he went to an NFC team as opposed to an AFC team.
Right,
So
right.
that's good.
Right.
I think for the money he got signed for, I think that's a good sign.
They re-signed Zach Gentry. I think that's a big nothing burger, to be honest with
I
you.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have two tight ends.
Yeah.
Somebody has to have one catch for 9 yards in week 13.
Somebody's got to block for that jet sweep going the other way.
Yeah. So
is your Zach Gentry.
So now they did sign LaRaven, what's his name? LaRaven Clark, an offensive lineman from the Eagles. And Mike Lawrence has a question. Saw this on Facebook. Did Tomlin really say to players no kneeling on the field?
Well, first of all, if it's on Facebook, it's got to be true.
It's
right.
definitely
Of
true.
course. It's
I don't know.
So, I don't even know why you would question that.
You try to look that up or something while we get to this. So signing LaRaven Clark.
I'll go to Zero Hedge.
Signing that's for another podcast, Schwab.
They'll have the truth. At least
signing not Lamar Jackson.
It'll have something to do with aliens.
Right.
LaRaven Clark as an offensive lineman from the Eagles. This is where I'm going with this. Okay. Then they bring in an offensive a center who's a 6-year college center who's supposed to be the top-rated center in the draft. He's the first guy that they bring in for a visit pre-draft. I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, and I heard it on the radio today. But this is the reason I'm bringing it up. Is this the Andy Weidel effect? Okay, because the Steelers are kind of like set at center. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the best guys, but they got two guys.
They got Mason Cole
and Kendrick Green, and then Siamalu started as a center. Okay, and he's a good lineman. He can play every position. And now they bring
He's not
in
gonna play center.
No, but he can. Now they bring in this guy who's supposedly like he was born and bred to play center. He's the best center in the draft. And I'm not assuming they're going to draft him, but is this the Andy Weidel effect? Was Andy Weidel in Philly when they drafted Jason Kelce?
I think so.
That's my point. You see where I'm going with this? Is Andy
I
Weidel?
see what you're getting at.
Right.
I'm
Nobody
sure.
has talked about this in the media. And that's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, I'm sure that he is bringing in his influence and what the Eagles have done.
Yes, Brad, it was a center from the Minnesota Gophers. And I'm sorry, Schwaber, hold that thought because we always have to say greetings to DG, who is in the house. Thank you.
John Michael Schmidt.
There it is, John Michael Schmidt. He was Minnesota.
I think the bottom line is that the Eagles for the past 5-10 years have done what the Steelers used to do, which was really place heavy emphasis on the O and D line.
Right.
And I think that he's probably influencing a move back to that approach.
Yeah. This is
sense.
the Andy Weidel effect. That's my theory. What do you think?
I agree. I absolutely think that first of all, they need to do that, whether he's the GM or not.
Right.
But that's what he's always done. And I think one of the reasons they brought him in was to actually do that. So the question is, will Tomlin, I'm not sure who's drafting, but whoever's drafting will actually listen to they said that he is setting the draft board.
Right.
But Tomlin is?
No.
Khan.
No.
Weidel.
Mm-hmm.
Weidel supposedly is setting the draft board. I don't believe that for a second, but they say he is. So if he puts 17 offensive linemen up there first, then he has to pick an offensive lineman.
That would make sense because in Philly, he would set it and Howie Roseman, who was the actual GM title, would make the decisions.
Yeah.
So that does make sense.
Based on the board that Weidel.
And I'm sure he's
Right.
consulting with Khan just to make sure that the cap stuff makes sense because there are going to be contracts that are going to be coming up in 3 years and 2 years, and they want to make sure that they're drafting for the position where they can re-sign him if they actually turn out to be very good. And you always think your first pick is going to be good for at least 3 years.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring this up because coming from the angle that we come from in having our Philly sports guy here with us on every show, and then Weidl, who's originally from Pittsburgh, but had a hand in crafting that Philadelphia team. What I think is really discounted, I think as Steelers Nation and the media here gets tunnel vision on certain things. And I'll give you another example that I heard on the radio today that I totally disagreed with. That's the only reason. We don't like to parrot the radio shows and the media here because we're not official media. We're fans that talk about sports the way fans do, which makes us, I think, a different style of media.
I'm the media.
And then we have Schwab, the Grand Schwabini as the media. But what's being discounted here is, of course, they're bringing in a ton of linemen. That's what Andy Weidl did. That's how they built the Eagles, and that's what the Steelers have lacked. Okay, so I think it's time to start thinking about the fact that in this draft, it may be a draft of linemen.
It might not be a sexy draft.
It might not be a sexy draft.
I would stand up and applaud if that was the case, but I promise you, in their first 3 or 4 picks, they're going to get a sexy pick in there.
They probably will.
And I include a cornerback as a sexy pick.
Well, look, everybody
wide receiver.
Everybody wants to talk about but everybody wants to talk about Joey Porter Jr. and Jordan Addison and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I have a feeling that if the Steelers and they're allowing, if they're doing the same thing, if Weidl is setting the draft board, the other thing is they like to talk about who makes the final decision. Look, I don't care who you are, whether you're the most accomplished guy in the media in town, who will be unnamed because there's a couple of them, or you're a bunch of guys like us that sit around and shoot the shit about it all the time. You don't know what really goes on in that room, and nobody's ever going to really tell you. Okay. No. So they collaborate. It's a collaboration. Tomlin doesn't have the final say. Khan doesn't have the final say. Maybe at some point, Rooney, because he owns the team, he may be able to say, no, I want that guy. But if he's a smart owner, he's not going to say it. He's not Dan Snyder. Okay. So I don't see that at all.
I think like most NFL teams, they collaborate, so they set their list. Right. But let's face it. Tomlin's going to have a favorite guy on that list.
Sure.
Weidl's not. He's going to say, if the 5th pick is there, you take the 5th pick.
Right.
If Tomlin likes the 10th pick over the 5th pick, even though they rank the 5th pick higher, he might say, we need that position on the team more, and therefore would have more play in that room. See, that's the thing. Like I think and then, of course, Rooney's going to agree with whatever Tomlin says. So it's like those two are always going to be right, even if Weidl sets the board. Well, when it comes down to it, if there's a favorite guy, I promise you, and you're right, I'm never going to be in the room, but I promise you, I know how decisions are made, and that's how the decision's going to be made. It's not going to be necessarily, okay, the 5th pick is still there, we're taking the 5th pick. I think there are teams that probably do that, by the way. I don't think that happens in the Steelers.
It's an interesting point that you bring up, because that's kind of an age-old question of, do you take the best player available, or do you draft for need?
And I think you draft for need.
I think, to be honest, I think the way the Eagles have drafted over the past 10 years, I think they pretty much draft for the best player available. I think that's why they take, an offensive lineman who in the first round who can't start because they got 2 Pro Bowl offensive linemen at tackle. Yeah. That's why they do that.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm
not saying it's the best way to do it.
But I would think you would set your board based off of your need too. Like clearly if you had a need at cornerback, you might rank 3 cornerbacks higher than you would, let's say the number 1 tight end on the board.
Right.
Well, okay. So again, I think we're discounting the Weidl effect. I don't think you're going to hear that in the media. They talk about Andy Weidl. But I think you're seeing that effect right now in the way they're looking at the offensive line and potentially bringing in another guy, signing these guys. And I think in the long run, no matter what, that's a good thing because that's your foundation. I don't care what I heard a guy on the radio this week on Wednesday who said that, it doesn't matter as much anymore that you have a great left tackle protecting Kenny Pickett. And he outlined, I know, I'm not going to say his name. If you listen to the Fan on Wednesday mornings, you'll know who I'm talking about. He was a GM in the NFL, but I totally disagree with him. I think
that's one of the most important positions in all of football.
Absolutely.
There's a reason they get paid like quarterbacks.
Right. Without and Daniel Rupert joins us again. Hey Dan, what's up? Draft for need this year in his opinion. But I also think that something that was said today. Okay, so we're in the off season. Tomlin is in Arizona, and apparently there were some reporters with him that and it was a private. I don't know if it was at a country club or a luncheon or something. There were no cameras, there were no recording devices, but he was asked, he was asked, Art Rooney said this about Matt Canada coming back for another year. What do you think about that? And Tomlin said, I have nothing to add to that. Now that set off this firestorm of what did he really mean? Did he mean that he doesn't want to really back him up and he doesn't want to badmouth him? He doesn't want to look, it's the off season. When he says he has nothing to add to that, what it means is he's just done talking about it. The guy's the offensive coordinator. I have nothing to add.
Right.
He's just saying, just leave me alone.
Yeah. It's like, let's stop reading all this
stupid
shit.
Question.
Okay.
Idiot.
We need to get used to the fact going into the draft that unless something drastic changes, Canada is in the last year of his contract. And I for one, think we just got to get on board. Kenny Pickett, second year, keep the consistency. Guaranteed that if that offense does not perform well and it looks the same as it looked last year, they're not renewing Canada's contract. And if they do, well, they're going to lose a lot of the fan base. With me or not. I don't think you're not with me on that one.
Well, I don't think anything will cause a lose of the fan base.
Well, I don't mean a total loss, but
they'll be disappointed.
Right. It's going to be like, come on. I mean, it's already there, but it's going to be more of protesting down at the stadium. It's going to be much more vocal, but this whole does Tomlin like Canada? Look, he likes the guy. All right. Canada is not the offensive coordinator because Rooney decided he was going to keep him and Tomlin doesn't want him. That's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
Canada is the offensive coordinator because for some reason, Tomlin thinks that he should still be there.
It's all going to depend on how the offense plays, and a lot of it will be how Pickett plays. And if they have a good year and they move up from being 31st in offense to 15th in offense or something like that, then he might be back.
They were 16th in the run last year, 24th in the pass, and they only had 12 passing touchdowns. 12.
Yeah. For
the whole year, worst in the league. 12.
Right.
I think I could throw 12.
Yeah, I knew they were last in something.
Horrible.
So yeah, look, they have to improve by leaps and bounds. If they don't, then Canada will probably be gone because then the contract's not going to be an issue.
Right. And Dan chimes in, last chance for Matt. DG says Big Ben seems to think Canada did pretty good because they won late in the season. That's, you know what, DG, I'm so sick of hearing about Big Ben and his podcast.
I love it.
Do you?
I do.
I just think Big Ben is now just saying whatever he, I don't want to go there, but what I really wanted to put up was his DG's comment that he's happy as a pig in mud. I think he's really more like happier than a pig in shit, but that the Steelers have addressed the offensive line. That's what I'm saying. That's the Waddle effect.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. Hey, before we leave the Steelers topic, I want to clean up did Tomlin really say no to the players kneeling?
Oh,
that's BS. It actually was from 2022, and that never happened.
Are we still talking about that? Why? Who even brought that up?
Well, somebody said they saw it on Facebook, so of course Facebook just recycles material, right?
That's right.
They're like, okay, what can be controversial? What can cause people to click on this? Oh, Tomlin saying not to kneel. Click, 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 click.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
Don't click on it anymore, Mike. You're just giving them money for free.
Okay, so I heard this, and I thought this was an interesting take. For the backup QB, they said Mitch is definitely coming back.
That's what Tomlin said.
Tomlin said,
he said Mitch is coming back, but he doesn't know that Mitch is coming back.
You don't think so?
He can hold out.
Yeah, but I don't think he would say that without having a little inside information. I mean, he is the head coach.
I don't think he's really got any leverage to hold out, really.
Not anymore.
He could just be like, "You lied to me last year. I'm not coming back."
Yeah, but then he wouldn't get. But
It'd be hard for him to get to another team, though. I think
It would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I mean, you look
he
at the
would put them in a bad, put
look-
the Steelers in a bad situation.
look at the backup quarterbacks that have signed. Heineke. Would you rather have Heineke or
Yeah.
Trubisky? I'd rather have Heineke
Like Heineke,
all day
yeah.
long. The guy
yeah, but
plays
how
like
much
he
did
wants to win.
Heineke sign for?
$4 million a year.
Right, I mean, super cheap.
A lot less. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett signed with the Redskins 1 year.
But
$8
they
million.
couldn't sign another quarterback because they already have.
I
him.
know. I'm just saying, who would you rather have? Cooper Rush, $2.5 million a year. He was 4-1 as a starter for Dallas.
No, Cooper Rush is garbage.
Okay.
He's like half a Purdy.
half a Purdy.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's
Okay.
also garbage.
Last NFL thing. Lamar Jackson, apparently everybody heard today that on March 2nd,
Mhm.
he requested a trade. And then I saw some scuttlebutt that yours truly, the Washington Commanders, might actually want to try to get him. Which I think-
Actually, they commented today that said they have no interest.
Oh, they said they have no interest?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good for them. I
Well,
think,
they got to stick to the collusion. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
nobody's
right,
going to
yeah,
sign him.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, I guess the question is, if he requested a trade on the 2nd of March, why are we finding out about that now? Or is that just a cover for all of the other stuff that's embarrassing to him when they're saying he's not allowed to use a certain agent or a certain person as an agent? I mean, this seems to be a battle that's just going downhill.
it was
the question I heard-
always going to go downhill when he refused to sign the contract that they gave him last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this. This is what owners, this is what teams do. They say, "This is the money I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you $150 million in guaranteed money.
Right.
Take it or leave it." And he said, "But this guy got $250 million in guaranteed money." And they're like, "No, he's an idiot. That's a dumb contract. Nobody's ever going to do that again." And then that's it. They stopped talking. Like there should have been some, okay, well, maybe we'll give you $155 million guaranteed, but it's guaranteed money. He should have just taken the money then.
Yeah.
Now he's saying like, I have to do what's right for my family. I think $150 million
Yeah,
would
right.
be all
yeah.
right for you.
I think you've done a lot of right things for
I mean,
your
I
family
understand.
already.
I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
looking at other contracts and saying that's not fair because of that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
everybody knows the Deshaun Watson contract,
Mhm.
the even the Dak Prescott contract is not good. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just in definitely the Murray contract out in Arizona.
Yeah.
It just kills. It's going to kill teams. And,
Yes,
and
this
like
is true.
and like that's why I don't think you see Burrow being signed yet, and that's why I think you don't see Jalen Hurts being
Right.
signed yet
It's true.
because they know they can't give them 220 million of guaranteed money because then they got nothing left.
Right.
Yeah, you can always play the okay, we'll restructure
Yeah,
the
yeah,
contract
yeah.
and all that bullshit that helps with cap
They
stuff.
always play games.
But that's the problem. This was always going to be the end game with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I just am surprised that he's playing the poor me card now because
Yeah.
come on, dude. Like anybody can sign him now. All they have to do is give up 2 first-round picks and he can be signed.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to pay that money.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Well, and
gonna pay that
I think
money.
it's a question of when you got a guy that's doing this, I think it's we could talk about collusion, we could talk about the contracts, but I think teams are also looking at him and saying this guy is being super selfish. And is this really a guy that wants to win a Super Bowl?
I don't know that it's
I
that.
don't think
I do think part of it
being
is he's been injured the last 2 years.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
and
just
the,
think that's
yeah.
more.
and the
of
way
it,
that he
yes.
plays doesn't lend to it getting much better.
Yeah.
Right. If he gets
You know,
injured and it's a
right.
leg injury and now he can't run, that's like
Yeah.
2/3 of his game.
And you owe him all this money,
Yeah.
yeah.
right?
Right,
I
and
mean,
spend
I
money.
do think though it helps that Patrick Mahomes took a deal without all that all guaranteed money.
Yeah, that hurt him. Yeah.
So that hurt Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson.
He restructured.
He
right?
restructured.
Right.
He got a
That
bonus,
just means
right?
that just means he gets his money now. He doesn't have
Right.
to wait for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
it's a good deal.
and
for him.
Mahomes has also delivered 2 Super Bowls as well. So
Look,
you know,
don't cry
Yeah.
poor for Mahomes and don't
Yeah.
think he's a great guy. They lost Tyreek Hill because of him.
Mhm.
They've had to rechange everything that they do there.
but he
because of
delivered a Super Bowl. I mean, his performance did not go down, and he played basically on one leg. You know,
he's a superstar in the league, clearly the superstar in the league.
Yeah.
But I mean, his contract's a problem for Kansas City. They have to manage it. They have to manage it. You know,
Did somebody say hockey?
Yeah, not yet, because I'm leaving this comment up here for a long time because Daniel Rupert, he says, "Great show, guys. Keep up the great stuff. Totally enjoy tuning in, and we enjoy you being here, Daniel. And I'll tell you what, if you want to help us out, go to the iHeartRadio app or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow the Sports Porch podcast, and leave us a review, or go to our website, theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com.
And please leave us a 5-star review and tell all your friends. So we really, really appreciate it. Thank you for listening on American Busker iHeartRadio, 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. And again, you guys are the reason that we're doing this. And really, you know, we are the reason we're doing it because we like to sit around and talk about this stuff.
We like to shoot the shit.
As Mark, I'm going to let you introduce the next. That's not what we were talking about before the show, though.
Hockey. Looks like the Pens had their best win of the year, a blast from the past. Malkin with the game winner.
Yeah.
After they almost coughed it up, causing some anxiety amongst the Yinzers.
Yes.
But it turns out to be a very exciting big win that has the Pens sort of with a stranglehold on a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So, Steve, what's going to happen? Are they going to hold on to that spot?
I always contend that as long as Sid's in the picture, and I actually, with all the injuries to the defense between Kulikov and Pedersen and
POJ.
POJ's been playing.
I just wanted to say POJ.
Yeah, POJ's been playing. You know, they say it's P.O. Joseph.
Right.
I know.
I don't like that. I like
it's
POJ.
Too much. It's too much effort.
I mean, I get it, P.O. Joseph. I mean, he probably wants to be called that, but I just like POJ. I think POJ.
It's
address DG's concerns here because you were drinking the Crown Royal that he sent you. So
I did. So yeah, exactly. So I got a little loose after
a little loose.
After
doesn't take much.
After Jake scored that third goal, I'm like, okay, that's got to be some karma there because you know Wilson basically put it right over the other guy's stick and it went right to Jake and he just buried a 5-hole shot. Just beautiful finish to that goal. But when they started coming back, I started getting the shakes again, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, this cannot be happening.
Or maybe you weren't drinking enough Crown Royal. Maybe you get the shakes when you don't have enough booze.
No. I try not to drink during games because I do enough swearing and I get a little excited, like in the first period. And then again in the third period, I was like way too excited. So I felt like I just needed a little, like actually alcohol calms me down a little bit, believe it or not.
Okay.
So in the third period, I'm like, I'm feeling good. I'm just going to pour myself one. I see the small little Crown Royal bottles over there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just make myself a little Negroni. Got some Campari. Perfect. I got a nice drink going on
I don't
there.
even know what he's talking about.
And don't worry, people know what we're talking about.
Okay.
You should know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you shouldn't know.
Because you would want one. And we're not giving you
one.
one.
All I know is that from what I've seen, a little alcohol doesn't calm you down.
It doesn't calm me down, but I feel like I swear less.
Yeah.
It speeds you up.
Yeah, speeds him up.
That's only when dancing in Key West.
Yeah, that's right.
But I wasn't doing any dancing. I was just watching a hockey game.
No, you were doing some. Oh, yeah.
No, not on Saturday.
I digress.
You were dancing with yourself.
Yes.
Who doesn't?
Dancing with myself.
All right.
No.
That's enough. Come on, Hockey Jesus, preach. Jesus.
So the Pens blew it. They always blow it. It's the third period. You got to figure it's a meltdown. The meltdown's coming. How bad is it going to be?
Yeah.
And when they gave up 2 goals, I'm like, okay, that's okay. Just don't give up the third goal. And the hockey Jesus rule. The hockey Jesus rule is if you can get to the 5-minute mark and you have 1 goal lead If you have a 2-goal lead, you're going to win.
This sounds like a complicated rule.
No, it's a simple rule.
Okay.
5 minutes left in the game, you have a 2-goal lead, you're going to win.
All right.
There's no way you can come back from that.
Right.
So if it's less than 5 minutes and it's 1 goal, then you got to figure they're going to have to pull a goalie to score, right? They're going to have to get the extra. When they scored with, I don't know, it was like 4 minutes and change left, I lost my shit. I was screaming at the television.
I can only imagine.
Don't give them a point. Don't give them a point. Don't. You just gave them a GD point. Oh my God. And I was like done. I was like, I can't believe that just happened. They just gave Washington a point.
Right.
And actually in my predictions, I actually said that the Pens were going to win and Washington, they were going to give up a loser point to Washington. Like that was my prediction for the month. When I predicted this game, that's what I said. I was like, well, at least I'll be right. So I was feeling a little, I know this team really well. And then I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. They can win this game. I really felt that way. And when Gino was on the ice and they took Danton Heinen off, because I don't know why you would put Danton Heinen on the ice with 10 minutes left in any game, although he's playing better. When Gino was on the ice, I'm like, okay. And Sid was on the ice. I'm like, these guys want to win this game. I know they want to win this game. And when he stole that puck, I was like, just bury it. Just bury it. And he made that just a beautiful shot. Yeah. Right under the blocker, right past him. That was just, I mean, I wish I was at the arena because that arena just had to explode. Yeah. There was only like a minute and change left.
I think that was a monkey on their back for them to be up. Were they up 3-0?
They were up 3-0.
Right. So for them to lose that lead
with like 17 minutes left in the game.
Right. For them to lose that lead and down near the end, the Capitals tie it up, and it's like, here we go again. And then for most of the season, the story is we're going to roll into overtime and pray.
Yeah.
All right.
They've been better in overtime lately.
Right.
So,
but for 90 seconds left for Gino to bury a goal, and now you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen going forward, but that was a monkey on their back.
No, it was a big win for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I said this in my podcast, so I'm not going to repeat all of it, but essentially 6-point lead over the Capitals, and a 3-point lead over Florida, and they're only within 1 point of the Islanders, and they have a game in hand. So technically, if they win the next game, they jump over the Islanders, and they would stay in the Metro and play and not have to play for losing the Boston.
Right. And I think here's an interesting thing. DG and you seem to be pretty close. My swearing woke up Susie twice.
And you've got a Susie.
That's right. Followed by my cheer when Gino scored. So I'm wondering.
Don't call her Susie, though.
If there is some. No. Yeah. Really?
That's a Suzanne.
Oh,
I'm glad you told me that.
Susie. Sue. Oh, my God. If you really want to get on my wife's bad side, just call her Sue.
Oh,
she'll slap you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will video.
What would happen if I drove up and I was blaring out the window my favorite Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue?
She wouldn't even understand the song.
What's her middle
name?
Be
fine. Her maiden name or middle name, because she kind of is like her maiden name is her middle name now.
What's the real middle name?
Jane.
Sue Jane.
Yes.
Susie J. Susie J. Susie J.
I want to say Q. Susie
Q. All right, DG. Thank you so much.
So yeah, the Pens. It was definitely the best win of the season. It came in a really good spot. But look, we got
work to do.
Lots of work to do. They play at Detroit. That's kind of a trap game. Detroit's been down lately.
Trap game.
And then they have to play, and that's away. So I'm a little scared of the Detroit game, although I did pick them to win. But I think Nashville's fading a little bit. Can you believe Nashville put up a statue of Pekka Rinne? What the hell?
Nashville put up a Pecker statue?
What is going on with these NHL teams?
Who's Peccarini?
Two-bit players getting freaking statues outside the arena.
That sounds like
Michael Jordan. Yeah, he deserves a statue. Mario Lemieux, yes, a statue. Pekka Rinne, a statue.
That sounds to me
I don't
like
think
that
so.
sounds to me like something you'd order at an Italian restaurant. I'll have the chicken peccarini.
Yeah. Well, now you can see it in a statue right outside
chicken
Nashville
peccarini.
Stadium.
You're live up to the minute. The Senators are on top of the Panthers, 2-0.
Let's go, Senators.
There you go.
I think we have to actually have to. we don't play the Senators.
All right, so I want to inform all you guys that you can listen to Steve. You can listen to the Hockey Jesus preaching on the podcast after every single Penguins game. He has done it religiously this year.
I've been religious
And
about my
let me
hockey
tell you, man, that is some dedication right there. Serious dedication.
I love it.
Mhm.
I love
Live
it.
on the Spreaker app by iHeartRadio. If you want to catch it live after every Penguins game, the Hockey Jesus preaches, and I know DG listens to all of them. And he says DeSmith hung tough most of the game, but he was all over the place a handful of times. I want him to keep his ass in the goal. But,
Yeah, who knows? I think Sully opened that up for him to stay in. I think he recognized. Did you know that last year DeSmith was tied for league in shutouts, and he doesn't have a single one this year? So I think he deserves to stay in there. I'm just tired of the whole Tristan Jarry, I'm injured bullshit. I mean,
yeah.
it's just like the team's got to be tired of it too.
You and every other fan. Yeah.
I actually think part of that goal that Gino scored was because he wanted to win it for DeSmith.
Well, yeah. I mean, and there's a pretty good chance DeSmith is going to end up playing a pretty large portion of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to roll with that, and we'll have all kinds of shit to talk about in the offseason about that. But the Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast, on iHeartRadio, Spotify, or anywhere.
I have to do one more thing with the
Please,
Penguins.
Steve, one more thing.
So the Penguins do this thing where at the games they win, they like take the hand. There's a helmet that they pass around. They give it to the guy who wins, right? And Letang had the last one, and he had it. And I was like, he's got to give it to Gino, right?
Right.
And he gave it to DeSmith.
Huh.
Did he?
And he gave it to DeSmith. And then
That's interesting.
And then Gino, you can hear Gino in the background. We're not friends anymore.
That's funny.
So how many games are left?
9 games left.
9. Okay. All right. 9 games left.
We're in
Fingers
single
crossed.
digits.
Let's get at least 3 or 4 wins out of those 9 games.
Oh no, know you're going to have to win 6.
Yeah, you think so?
6 is going to be the number.
6.
It might be 5.
Hard, man.
It might be 5, but I'm thinking if they win 6, they're in.
And
Actually, they may have a chance at getting the. You really want to get the first spot. You don't want to have to play Boston.
right.
The person who's in that second spot is going to lose in the first round.
Right.
They absolutely are going to lose
Boston
in the
is
first
a
round.
juggernaut.
Although it has happened before, though, that the President's Trophy winner loses in the first round.
Yeah, but this is a special team.
It's unlikely.
Have you seen this team play?
Yeah, it's unlikely.
They're really good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really good. So I think you're better off, and I don't even know who you're going to play against right now. It's still Carolina at the top, but I mean, the Rangers are surging, and the Devils are right there. So I mean, the Rangers are something like 8-1-1 in their last 10. They're ridiculous. They finally figured it out. I mean, all that talent, you got to figure that I wouldn't want to play the Rangers. I would rather play the Devils, who are an arch nemesis of ours in the playoffs, but they're young. And Carolina, I don't know. I think they're fading because Svechnikov got hurt and he's out for the season.
So
you want to stay away from Zibanejad.
So all the he just loves that name. So all of this to say that we're going to have a Hockey Jesus special playoff preview.
Yep.
When next week?
No, it's too it's too early.
Playoffs.
It's too early. Let me look at the schedule. The schedule is set up so that probably their last game is April 13th. My guess is
After that.
Unless they're already going to be in the playoffs and that game at Columbus doesn't mean anything, I would say somewhere between April 12th and April 15th.
And we're going to see that on the porcheslive.com as well.
Absolutely.
Are we going to have a blog post about that?
Yep. I actually may go live and do it.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe on Facebook.
Yeah.
All right.
Might go live.
That sounds good to me. Okay. Hockey Jesus preaching on the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you get your podcasts. Last thing we're going to talk about here is opening day, the Pirates, Thursday, March 30th. Now, what we did promise this year is that we will at least pay a little bit more attention to Pirates baseball. I, for one, think that after thinking about the offseason and what they've done in bringing McCutchen back, and I want you guys to watch for the porcheslive.com and my blog post on McCutchen, which will be coming up here before Thursday. I for one, feel a little bit better about this season. I think Mitch Keller is going to pitch a little bit better. He was not lights out, but he was pretty good at the second half of the season last year. I think Reynolds is a solid player. He's not a superstar, but he's a solid player. I think Kutch brings a level of consistency and veteran leadership. I think O'Neal Cruz, if he can solve his strikeout issue, which when you got a big swing,
is a big thing,
right? But he's got talent, man. And Brian Hayes, if he stays healthy, I think the Pirates have a chance to, let's just say, put on a good show. And that's as far as I would go with them. Opening day is Thursday. It happens to be in Cincinnati. So they start with a 6-game road trip, 3 in Cincinnati, 3 in Boston. They come back Friday, April 7th is opening night at PNC Park. That'll be an exciting night. Well, it's actually a 4:00 game, but against the White Sox. So hopefully we will have some stuff to talk about with the Pirates this year.
Who's the opening day starter?
Oh, Mitch Keller.
Yeah.
Mitch Keller.
Okay.
So, hey, it's not Clayton Kershaw. but it's the best guy they got. It's the best guy they got. I don't know. There's just something about it. And I have not – I've paid a little bit more attention to the reporting this year. I haven't done any analyzing myself. But I've paid a little bit more attention to what the insiders are saying about the players in spring training and what they bring to the table. Where, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think that the organization has made any big decisions about how they're going to, manage this organization going forward.
Well, they did mention something.
Well, they did, but what I think is even more hilarious, though, are some of the biggest headlines in the last couple of weeks were, well, we made some nice changes to PNC Park, and we also re-signed one of the damn pierogies.
Right.
I mean, if you got
Pierogi Pete's back.
Right, Pierogi Pete's back. Like, we care. Okay? Like, and in my head, I'm thinking, okay, who am I to question guys that make $20, $30, $40 million a year? Okay, because they make a couple more dollars a year than I do. All right. But the thing about it is, like, really, is this what you're doing? Are you actually saying that, well, we're still gonna have 4 pierogies in that dumb pierogi race? Come on down to the ballpark every night. Yeah. So what I'm hoping is that they put on a little bit better show this year. I think they're going to put on a better show, at least to start the season with Kutch back. We'll see. You guys have anything to say about that? I'm not expecting you to.
The only thing I have to say about that is, and I'm not going to talk about the fact that the Pirates said they need to make their payroll sustainable for the future. Whatever the hell
does that mean? That's
why I don't want to have that conversation now because it would just set me off into a tizzy.
Right.
And there were some things that came out on Forbes about the value of the team and that sort of thing. Once again, I don't want to go off on that because I want to start on the positive note. The thing that I am actually looking forward to in the MLB, which is dead to me, but the one thing I actually am looking forward to, because this could be a game changer, is the pitch clock. I think the pitch clock can make a difference. It might bring me back to actually want to watch a game.
Yeah.
If literally the games are only going to last like 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2.5 hours, I'm okay with that. Like I don't want to invest my time watching 2-bit talent, and it takes 3.5 hours.
Okay, so that's interesting because in the previous show on the Philly Sports Porch, Schwaber and I were talking, and that actually kind of flies in contrast to one of the points that I made, where I said that I think with them toying around with the pitch clock and tinkering around with all this other stuff, making the bases a little larger, they're trying to bring the younger fans back. To me, baseball, if it's boring to you, it's always been boring to you. It doesn't 2 hours versus 3 hours. But when you mention that with the pitch clock, it could be
that was a different angle. The different angle was
true.
Because with the Phillies, we were talking about watching a good team versus watching a bad team.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
And that's different.
If you're watching a good team and they're hitting the ball well and they're pitching well, you don't care that it's taking them 30 seconds to throw the ball versus 22.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. But when you have a shit-ass team like we have and have had for a while, it's like the sooner you can get them off the field,
the better.
The better off it will be for me. Like, and maybe it'll give an advantage if you have a good pitcher who knows what he's doing and likes to throw strikes, as opposed to the guy that's not getting into the box and is kind of playing a mind game.
I did think it was interesting. I wonder if I looked at the same thing that you looked at, and they listed like the top 5 most profitable teams and then the bottom 5 least profitable teams.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that the Pirates were not one of the least 5 profitable.
No, they are
teams.
not.
Oh no, they make some money.
Which is,
Well, I don't
which is
think
terrible.
we should have this discussion.
All right.
Yeah,
We don't want to.
and
We don't want to
it's
send
2
hockey.
minutes left.
We don't want to send Hockey Jesus down a bad road.
That's exactly.
But
right.
I do think we need
We
to
don't.
have
We
that
don't need a.
conversation.
We don't need a fallen angel for Hockey Jesus. That would make him
I need to focus on the playoffs.
Hockey.
I can't focus on the
Beelzebub.
playoffs.
Hockey Beelzebub.
We'll save Satan for another time.
That's it, right. Now I got to get
Hockey
my
Satan.
first. DG says he doesn't have my newfound enthusiasm. He's old and jaded. Well, we are also old and at times very jaded. But please, DG, don't hold your breath because I'm not going to. Now, my buddy from York, Jeff, chimes in and says, "Great show, guys." But then, of course, he has to ruin it by saying Pirates might be better than those.
Oh,
I completely disagree with you, Jeff. Completely disagree with you. I think the Orioles. There has been this is a Pittsburgh show, so this is all I'm going to say. There has been a reconciliation of the Angelos brothers in Baltimore who were fighting over control of the team, and the brother that is in control, the brother that was not in control, has conceded. They have amended. They have made amends, according to the press, and that team has a lot of young, really exciting talent. And one thing I can say about Baltimore and the Orioles is that they are different from the Pirates in that they do want to have a winner. They do. Other than that, I don't know, but I think they're going to be better.
Thanks for that Baltimore Orioles information.
There you go. And Jeff is laughing at me, which
he
he's
just
always
wanted
done.
to set you up. He got you. Really.
He's
When
always
it comes
done.
down
He
to
did
it,
get me.
Jeff
He
got
did get me. I mean, but we
He
don't
knew
do-
what button to push.
we haven't
Let's push
launched.
that Orioles button. Right.
I haven't launched the Sports Baltimore yet, so we're not gonna, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm like talking about Pittsburgh Penguins and all this shit for you, and then I do a Philly sports show for him, where I've actually got to pay attention to the Eagles now.
Hey,
Okay,
if
so
the
if I want to
O's
talk about the Orioles, I'm going to talk about the goddamn Orioles.
Hey,
Maybe
if
you
the O's
should-
were as
maybe
good
you
as they
should-
were last year, I think you deserve it.
There you go.
Maybe you should talk about where you came from and do a York High School program.
York Suburban. You want to? And you want
We
to
can talk about their soccer program, how it's up and coming.
Yeah. You want to know what? That would be a great show because their mascot was the Trojans.
Oh, we can take that in a lot of
that.
different
That explains a lot about you.
All right, guys, listen.
It really does.
As always, we want to thank you so
Piece
much for
we didn't
listening
know.
to the show. We drop the podcast. I call it the show after the show. So we drop the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcast. Right after this show, within the first 15 minutes, you can pick it up if you want to pick up any part of the show. And again, thank you for listening to us on American Buster, iHeartRadio, 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. We look forward to next week. DG says, thanks, guys. Catch you next time on the porch.
Maybe
DG,
we'll be on the porch next
biggest
time.
fan.
Weather's
Maybe.
getting nice.
Weather permitting.
Yeah, as soon as it gets warm out, we will be back on the porch. And until next week, guys, we're out of here.
PorchIsLive.com.
ThePorchIsLive.com. ThePorchIsLive.com.
ThePorchIsLive.com.
All right, guys, you have a great week.
.com.